45-year-old millionaire CEO's cancer diagnosis reveals a 25-year secret and life-changing reunion that transformed everything. Victoria Sterling's fingers trembled as she signed another multi-million-dollar contract. At 45, she commanded a cosmetics empire worth $300 million, her face gracing magazine covers as America's most ruthless CEO. From her 47th-floor Manhattan office, she could see the entire city, yet she had never felt more invisible. The irony wasn't lost on her. She sold beauty to millions of women worldwide, yet she couldn't remember the last time she'd looked in a mirror and seen anything but emptiness staring back. "Ms. Sterling, your 3 o'clock is here," Jennifer announced through the intercom. Victoria barely looked up. Another board meeting, another acquisition, another victory that felt hollow. She had built Sterling Cosmetics from nothing, clawing her way to the top through sheer determination. But somewhere along the way, she had lost herself. That evening, alone in her $15 million penthouse, Victoria poured herself a glass of wine and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Below, the city pulsed with life. Families walking together, couples holding hands, children playing in the park. Lives she had never allowed herself to have. Her phone buzzed. A routine medical appointment reminder. At 45, she maintained her health like she maintained her business, with military precision. What could possibly go wrong? Dr. Sarah Chen's face was grave as she entered the examination room 3 days later. Victoria noticed the subtle shift in her demeanor immediately. After all, reading people was her specialty. "Victoria, we need to talk about your test results." The words that followed felt like they were spoken underwater. Stage 3 breast cancer. Aggressive, advanced. The tumor had been growing silently while she built her empire, a rebellion within her own body. "What are my options?" Victoria's voice remained steady, her business training kicking in, even in crisis. "Chemotherapy, radiation, and potentially a bone marrow transplant. Your prognosis, with treatment, we're looking at 12 to 18 months. 18 months, Victoria calculated quickly. Enough time to finalize the European expansion, secure the board's future, ensure her company's legacy. But what about her own legacy? Who would remember Victoria Sterling the person, not the CEO? "We'll need to contact your family for compatibility testing," Dr. Chen continued. "I don't have family." Surely there must be someone, parents, siblings, cousins. Victoria's throat tightened. "I was raised in St. Mary's Children's Home. My parents died when I was young. I have no one." The doctor made notes, but Victoria barely heard the rest of the conversation. For the first time in decades, her carefully constructed world was crumbling, and she was utterly alone. That night, Victoria did something she hadn't done in 20 years. She opened the small lockbox hidden in her bedroom safe. Inside lay the only remnants of her life before Sterling Cosmetics. A faded photograph of 2 little girls, birth certificates, and adoption papers. The photograph showed her at age 4, holding the hand of a smaller girl with the same green eyes and dark hair. Isabella, her baby sister, the only person who had ever loved her unconditionally. Victoria remembered that terrible day at St. Mary's when the Morrison family chose only her. Isabella had cried, clinging to Victoria's dress, begging them not to be separated. "I'll find you," Victoria had promised. "I'll come back for you." But the Morrisons moved to California. Then Victoria went to boarding school, then college, then her career consumed everything. The promise of a 4-year-old had been buried under layers of ambition and success. Now, facing her own mortality, that forgotten promise echoed in her mind like an accusation. The next morning, Victoria called the most expensive private investigation firm in the city. "I need you to find someone," she said. "My sister, Isabella Sterling, last seen at St. Mary's Children's Home 25 years ago." 2 weeks later, investigator Michael Rodriguez sat across from Victoria in her office, a thick file between them. His expression was carefully neutral, but she could sense his discomfort. "We found her," he said simply. Victoria's heart stopped. "Where?" "The Bronx. She goes by Isabella Martinez now. Married name. She's 42, works as a pediatric nurse at Bronx General Hospital." He opened the file, revealing photographs that took Victoria's breath away. There was Isabella, older, but unmistakably the same girl from the photograph, walking out of the hospital, in scrubs, exhaustion etched on her face, but kindness in her eyes. "Tell me everything," Victoria whispered. Michael's report painted a picture that shattered Victoria's heart. Isabella had aged out of the foster system at 18, put herself through nursing school while working 3 jobs. She married David Martinez, a construction worker, at 22. They had 3 children, Maria 15, Carlos 12, and Sophia 8. Then came the tragedy. 2 years ago, David had fallen from scaffolding, leaving Isabella a widow with 3 children and a mountain of debt. She worked double shifts just to keep their small apartment and put food on the table. "She never remarried?" Victoria asked. "According to our research, she had opportunities, but chose to focus on her children. She's beloved at the hospital. Patients call her their guardian angel." Victoria stared at a photograph of Isabella reading to a sick child, and the contrast hit her like a physical blow. While Victoria had spent millions on marketing campaigns about beauty, Isabella had devoted her life to healing. While Victoria lived alone in a mansion, Isabella shared a tiny apartment overflowing with love. "There's something else," Michael said carefully. "She's been looking for you too." He handed Victoria a printout of social media posts going back years. Isabella had never stopped searching for her big sister, posting on reunion websites, following every Victoria Sterling lead, even joining genealogy sites in hopes of finding a trace. "Every year on your birthday, she posts the same message," Michael said, showing Victoria the screen. "Happy birthday, Victoria. I hope you're happy wherever you are. I still have that photo of us. Love, your little sister Bella." Victoria's carefully maintained composure finally broke. She hadn't heard that nickname in 25 years. Victoria sat in her Tesla, outside the weathered apartment building in the Bronx, for over an hour, gathering courage she'd never needed in any boardroom. The neighborhood was a world away from Manhattan. Children played in the courtyard. Elderly residents sat on stoops sharing stories. Laundry hung from fire escapes like colorful flags of survival. Finally, she stepped out of the car, her designer heels clicking on cracked pavement. A few curious glances followed her as she climbed to the 3rd floor, her heart pounding harder with each step. Apartment 3B, a small nameplate read, "Martinez Family." Children's voices echoed from within, along with the sound of someone washing dishes. Victoria raised her hand to knock, then lowered it. What if Isabella slammed the door? What if she blamed Victoria for abandoning her? What if 25 years had created an unbridgeable gap? Before she could change her mind, the door opened. A teenage girl, with Isabella's eyes, stood there, looking surprised. Can I help you?" Maria asked, taking in Victoria's expensive clothes and nervous demeanor. "I'm an old friend," Victoria managed. "Mom," Maria called, "someone's here to see you." Footsteps approached, and then Isabella appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. For a moment both sisters stood frozen, separated by 25 years and 2 feet of space. Isabella's eyes widened, her mouth opening in shock. The dish towel fell to the floor. "Victoria?" she whispered. "Bella," Victoria whispered back, using the childhood nickname that felt foreign yet familiar on her tongue. Isabella's hands flew to her mouth, tears already streaming down her face. "Oh my God, it's really you, it's really you." They fell into each other's arms right there in the doorway, 25 years of separation dissolving in an instant. Both women sobbed, clinging to each other like they were drowning. "I looked for you," Isabella cried. "I never stopped looking." "I know," Victoria sobbed. "I know. I'm so sorry, Bella. I'm so sorry I didn't find you sooner." Maria stood watching, tears in her own eyes, not fully understanding but feeling the profound emotion of the moment. Soon, Carlos and little Sophia appeared, drawn by their mother's tears. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Sophia asked, tugging on Isabella's sweater. Isabella pulled back, her hands still gripping Victoria's shoulders, as if afraid she might disappear. "Children," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is my sister, my big sister Victoria, the one I told you about."
Sophia's eyes went wide. The sister from the photo?
Yes, baby, the sister from the photo. Isabella's apartment was tiny, barely 800 square feet housing 4 people. But it was bursting with life, love, and warmth that Victoria's mansion had never possessed. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. Family photos lined every surface. And the small kitchen table bore the gentle scars of family meals and homework sessions. "I'm sorry it's not much," Isabella said, suddenly self-conscious as she cleared school books from the couch. "Don't apologize," Victoria said quickly. "It's beautiful. It's a home." They sat together on the small couch while the children hovered nearby, curious about this mysterious aunt who had appeared like something from a fairy tale. Isabella made coffee in a pot that had clearly seen better days. Her movements economical but graceful. "Tell me everything," Victoria said. "I want to know about your life, your children, everything I missed." As Isabella began to share her story, Victoria was struck by the absence of bitterness. Despite the hardships, the struggles, the recent tragedy of losing her husband, Isabella spoke with warmth and gratitude. "After David died, I thought about giving up. The bills, the grief, trying to be both parents. But then I'd look at my babies and remember what we still have. We have each other." Maria, who had been hovering in the kitchen, finally approached. "Mom talks about you all the time," she told Victoria shyly. "She says you used to protect her when you were little." "Did she?" Victoria's voice was barely above a whisper. "She says that's why she became a nurse," Carlos added from his spot by the window. "To take care of people like you took care of her." Victoria felt her heart break and heal simultaneously. All these years she'd been building an empire, while Isabella had been building something far more valuable. A family, a legacy of love and service. As the evening wore on, Victoria knew she had to tell Isabella about the cancer. They sent the children to their rooms to do homework, and the sister sat alone in the dim living room. "Bella, there's something I need to tell you about why I found you now," Victoria began, her voice trembling. Isabella's nurse instincts kicked in immediately. "What is it? What's wrong?" "I have cancer. Breast cancer, stage 3. The doctors say, they say I might need a bone marrow transplant. They need to test family members." Isabella's face went white, then red with anger. "How long have you known?" "A month." Stood up, pacing the small room. "A month, and you've been dealing with this alone? Victoria, how could you face something like this without family?" "I didn't think I had family," Victoria said quietly. "I thought I'd burned that bridge 25 years ago." Isabella sat back down, taking Victoria's hands in hers. "Listen to me carefully. You are my sister, my blood, my family, my heart. Nothing, not time, not distance, not anything, changes that. Do you understand me?" Victoria nodded, unable to speak through her tears. "We're going to fight this together," Isabella said firmly. "And when you beat this, because you will beat this, you're never going to be alone again." The next day, Isabella accompanied Victoria to her appointment with Dr. Chen. The contrast was striking. Victoria in her designer suit, and Isabella in her day-old scrubs after a night shift, but their hands were intertwined like they'd never been apart. Chen was amazed by the family resemblance, and even more amazed by the preliminary blood work. "This is extraordinary," she said, reviewing the results. "Isabella, you're not just compatible. You're a perfect match. The genetic markers are identical in ways I rarely see outside of twins." "What does that mean?" Victoria asked. "It means if we need to proceed with a bone marrow transplant, Isabella could be your donor. But first, let's start with the chemotherapy and see how you respond." As they left the hospital, Isabella was quiet. Finally, Victoria asked what she was thinking. "I was thinking about something Mommy used to say before she died," Isabella said. "She told me that God puts people in our lives exactly when we need them most. I thought I needed you when I was little, but maybe you need me now." Victoria stopped walking. "I do need you, Bella, more than I've ever needed anyone." Over the following weeks, Victoria underwent chemotherapy while learning to be part of a family again. She attended Carlos's soccer games, cheering so loudly that other parents stared. She helped Maria with college applications, using her business connections to open doors that had seemed impossible. But it was 8-year-old Sophia who captured her heart completely. The little girl had no memory of life before loss, no understanding of wealth or status. To her, Aunt Victoria was simply the lady who gave the best hugs and told funny stories about board meetings as if they were fairy tales. "Aunt Victoria," Sophia said one evening as they worked on a puzzle together, "why don't you have any kids?" Victoria's hand stilled. "I was too busy working, sweetheart." "That's silly," Sophia declared matter-of-factly. "Work isn't as fun as kids. Look how much fun we have." Victoria looked around the apartment. Maria helping Carlos with math homework, Isabella singing softly while folding laundry, Sophia's small hand trustingly in hers, and realized the child was absolutely right. The chemotherapy was brutal. Victoria's legendary thick hair fell out in clumps, her energy disappeared, and her appetite vanished. But she was never alone. Isabella took leave from work to be with her during treatments. Maria read to her when she was too sick to focus. Carlos brought her his soccer trophies for good luck, and Sophia drew picture after picture of them all together. During one particularly difficult night, when Victoria was vomiting from the chemo, Isabella held her hair back and whispered, "Remember when we got food poisoning at St. Mary's? You held my head just like this." "You remember that?" Victoria gasped. "I remember everything about you, Vicky. Even when you forgot about me." "I never forgot," Victoria said through tears. "I just thought you'd be better off without me." "That was never your choice to make," Isabella said gently. "Family doesn't abandon family. We stick together through everything." As Victoria's treatment continued, she had to make decisions about Sterling Cosmetics. She called an emergency board meeting, appearing via video from Isabella's apartment because she was too weak to travel. "I'm taking a leave of absence," she announced to the shocked board members. "Jennifer will handle day-to-day operations with the executive team." "Victoria, this isn't like you," said board chair Robert Kim. "You've never taken so much as a vacation." "That's the problem," Victoria said quietly. "I've spent 25 years building this company and forgotten to build a life. I'm rectifying that now." After the meeting, Isabella brought her tea and sat beside her. "Are you sure about stepping back? I know how much the company means to you." Victoria looked around the small apartment that had become more of a home to her than any mansion. "It used to mean everything, but I'm learning that there's a difference between success and significance." 6 months into treatment, Dr. Chen delivered mixed news. "The chemotherapy has slowed the cancer's progress, but it hasn't eliminated it. We need to proceed with the bone marrow transplant." Isabella didn't hesitate. "When?" "The procedure is risky for both of you," Dr. Chen warned. "Victoria, your body is weakened from chemo. Isabella, you'll be in significant discomfort and need weeks to recover." "Doctor," Isabella said firmly, "this woman is my sister. She would do it for me without question. There's nothing to discuss." The night before the procedure, Victoria couldn't sleep. She found Isabella in the kitchen, also wide awake. "Are you scared?" Isabella asked. "Terrified," Victoria admitted. "Not of the surgery, but of, what if this doesn't work? What if I die anyway, and you went through all this for nothing?" Isabella sat beside her. "Victoria, do you know what you've given me these past 6 months?" "What?" "My sister back. My children have an aunt who loves them. I'm not alone anymore. Even if the worst happens, and it won't. These months have been worth everything." They sat in comfortable silence, two sisters facing an uncertain future, but no longer facing it alone. The bone marrow transplant surgery took place on a rainy Tuesday morning. Isabella was taken first, and Victoria waited in pre-op, holding Sophia's hand through the window. "She's going to be okay, right, Aunt Victoria?" Sophia whispered. "Your mom is the strongest person I know," Victoria said. "She's giving me part of herself so I can stay with all of you. She's a hero." When they wheeled Isabella past Victoria's room afterward, both women reached out to touch hands through their doorways. "I love you, Vicky," Isabella whispered, groggy from anesthesia. "I love you too, Bella. Thank you for saving my life." The recovery was slow and painful. Both sisters were hospitalized for weeks, their rooms side by side. Maria, Carlos, and Sophia visited every day after school, doing homework in the hallway, bringing updates from the outside world. Victoria watched Isabella with her children and saw the patient, loving way she guided them through their worry and fear. Even while recovering from major surgery, Isabella put her children's needs first, comforting them when they cried, celebrating small victories like Carlos scoring a goal or Maria getting accepted to her dream college. "How do you do it?" Victoria asked one day. "How do you always put everyone else first?" That's what love is. It's not about what you get, it's about what you give. Victoria had spent her entire adult life trying to get more money, more success, more recognition. She was finally learning about the joy of giving. 3 months post-transplant, Dr. Chen called them both into her office with barely contained excitement. "The transplant was a complete success," she announced. "Victoria, your latest scans show no sign of cancer. None. It appears Isabella's bone marrow has not only taken hold, but is actively rebuilding your entire immune system." Victoria felt the words wash over her like a miracle. "I'm going to live?" "You're going to live," Dr. Chen confirmed. "Isabella, your recovery is also remarkable. You're ahead of schedule on every marker." The sisters looked at each other and began to laugh and cry simultaneously. They had done it. They had beaten cancer, but more importantly, they had found each other again. 6 months later, Victoria was declared cancer-free and had made a decision that shocked everyone who knew her. She called another board meeting, this time in person, looking healthier than she had in years. "I'm resigning as CEO," she announced to the stunned room. "I'm transferring 60% of my shares to the Isabella Martinez Foundation for Pediatric Care, and I'm donating the remaining 40% to establish college scholarships for foster children." The board erupted in protests, but Victoria held up her hand. "I've spent 25 years accumulating wealth and power, and I nearly died alone. My sister, who has almost nothing, is richer than I ever was because she has love. I'm choosing love." "Victoria, this company is worth hundreds of millions," Robert Kim protested. "And my sister's love is worth more than all of it combined," Victoria said calmly. "The decision is final." Victoria moved into a small apartment 2 blocks from Isabella's family, close enough to be part of their daily life, but far enough to give them space. She used her remaining wealth to fund Isabella's dream of opening a community clinic in the Bronx. "I can't accept this," Isabella protested when Victoria showed her the plans. "You're not accepting it," Victoria said. "We're building it together. You'll run the medical side, I'll handle the business operations. Partners?" Isabella looked at the blueprints for the clinic that would provide free health care to their neighborhood, tears streaming down her face. "Partners," she agreed. 2 years later, Victoria walked Maria down the aisle at her graduation party, where she announced her engagement to a young man she'd met in college. Standing in for the father Maria had lost, Victoria felt a pride deeper than any business achievement. "Thank you," Maria whispered as they danced. "For coming back to us. Thank you for accepting me," Victoria replied. "I never knew what it meant to be an aunt." Sophia, now 10, was the flower girl, and Carlos, 14 and taller than Victoria, was the ring bearer. Isabella beamed from the front row, healthy and radiant. After the party, as they cleaned up the community center they'd rented, Sophia asked, "Aunt Victoria, are you sad you don't have kids of your own?" Victoria looked at this little girl who'd captured her heart, at Carlos practicing his dance moves, at Maria planning her future, and at Isabella directing the cleanup with loving authority. "Sweetheart," Victoria said, "I have the most beautiful family in the world. I have all of you." 5 years after that first knock on Isabella's door, the sisters sat together in the courtyard of their thriving community clinic. The Isabella Martinez Victoria Sterling Medical Center served hundreds of families, providing free health care to those who needed it most. Victoria, now 50, looked nothing like the cold CEO who had once commanded corporate America. Her graying hair was natural, her clothes simple, her face lined with laughter instead of stress. She spent her days teaching business skills to young mothers, helping them start small enterprises to support their families. Isabella, 47, was the medical director, beloved by patients who still called her their guardian angel. Her children were thriving. Maria was in medical school, Carlos had a soccer scholarship, and Sophia was becoming an artist like Victoria encouraged her to be. "Do you ever regret it?" Isabella asked one evening as they watched Sophia show her artwork to other children. "Giving up the company, the money, the fame?" Victoria watched Sophia explain colors and shapes with the same passion Victoria had once reserved for quarterly reports. "Bella, I spent 25 years trying to fill an empty space inside me with success. I thought if I achieved enough, accumulated enough, accomplished enough, I wouldn't feel the loneliness anymore. Now I know that the empty space was you. It was family. It was love." Victoria smiled, watching Carlos help an elderly patient walk to her car. "I didn't give up anything. I found everything." 10 years after the cancer diagnosis that changed everything, Victoria Sterling Martinez, she'd legally changed her name to include her sisters, sat in the garden of their medical center. Surrounded by children she'd helped through the foundation, watching Isabella teach young nurses the same compassion she'd learned through hardship. The business world had moved on without her. Sterling Cosmetics had been absorbed by a larger company. Her former colleagues had forgotten her name. But in this corner of the Bronx, Victoria's legacy was measured differently. There was the mother of 4 who'd started a successful catering business with Victoria's microloan program. The teenage father, who'd finished high school with Victoria's mentorship and was now studying engineering. The grandmother who'd received life-saving surgery at their clinic. And there was family. Sophia, now 18, was heading to art school on a scholarship Victoria had helped her secure. Carlos, 22, was a social worker in their community, following his mother's example of service. Maria, 25, was completing her medical residency and would soon join Isabella at the clinic. Abuela Victoria called Sophia's boyfriend's little sister, running up with a scraped knee. The children in the neighborhood had started calling Victoria grandmother, and she treasured the title more than CEO had ever meant to her. As Victoria cleaned the little girl's wound and applied a bandage decorated with cartoon hearts, she thought about the long journey from that sterile penthouse to this moment. She'd lost everything that she thought mattered, and found everything that actually did. Isabella approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee, still their evening ritual after all these years. "What are you thinking about?" Isabella asked, settling beside her sister on the bench they'd placed in memory of David Martinez, whose love had created the family that saved them both. "I was thinking about that little girl who used to hold my hand at St. Mary's," Victoria said, "how she never stopped believing we'd find each other again." "Maybe she knew something the grown-ups didn't," Isabella mused. "What's that?" "That some bonds can't be broken by time or distance or even our own mistakes. Family finds a way." Victoria smiled, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors Sophia would try to capture in her next painting. "The best part is, we still have so much time left to be sisters." "Forever," Isabella agreed, taking Victoria's hand, just like they used to do as children. "We have forever." And in that moment, Victoria Sterling knew with absolute certainty that she was the richest woman in the world.